The hallway was almost empty when the bell rang, but the sound still echoed like a warning through the polished marble floors of Westbridge Academy. Lockers slammed in the distance, laughter faded into stairwells, and sunlight poured through tall windows in long golden stripes. Near the far end of the corridor, beside a row of framed student awards, a little girl sat on the cold floor hugging her knees. Her name was Ava Thompson, and at just 9 years old, she had already learned how to cry quietly. The kind of crying where your shoulders shake but no sound comes out, because you don't want anyone to notice. Her math paper was crumpled in her hand. A big red 62 stared back at her like proof of something she feared was true. Not good enough. That's what the other kids had whispered earlier. How can she be so bad at math? Isn't her mom like some big boss? The whisper stung worse than the grade. Ava didn't just feel like she failed a test. She felt like she had failed an expectation. At the other end of the hallway, pushing a cleaning cart with steady, practiced rhythm, was Mr. Raymond. Most students barely noticed him. To them, he was just the janitor, the quiet man who swept floors and emptied trash bins before they even realized they were full. He wore faded blue coveralls and carried himself with a kind of invisible dignity. His hands were rough from years of work, but his eyes were soft, observant. As he turned the corner, he noticed the small pair of black shoes tucked beneath a bench. He paused. He had seen that posture before, knees pulled in, head bowed, trying to disappear. He gently parked his cart against the wall and walked over, careful not to startle her. "Hey there," he said softly, kneeling down a few feet away so he wouldn't invade her space. "That floor's not very comfortable, you know." Ava quickly wiped her cheeks, embarrassed. "I'm fine," she whispered, though her voice trembled. Mr. Raymond didn't argue. He simply sat down cross-legged on the cool tile, lowering himself to her level. "You don't look fine," he said kindly. "And that's okay." Ava stared at the crumpled paper in her hands. "I messed up," she muttered. "Everyone thinks I'm supposed to be perfect." Mr. Raymond tilted his head slightly. "Says who?" She hesitated. "They say my mom runs a huge company. That I should be smart at everything." Her voice cracked. "But I'm not. I try and it's never enough." For a moment, the hallway felt very still. Mr. Raymond looked at the red 62, then back at her tear-streaked face. He didn't see a failure. He saw pressure, heavy, invisible pressure sitting on small shoulders. "Can I tell you something?" he asked gently. Ava gave a tiny nod. He leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice like he was sharing a secret meant only for her. "You're not broken." The words were simple. Quiet. But they landed like sunlight breaking through clouds. Ava blinked. "What?" "You're not broken," he repeated. "A test score doesn't measure your heart. Or your courage. Or how hard you try. Sometimes numbers just measure numbers." She stared at him, unsure. "But I'm bad at math." Mr. Raymond chuckled softly. "You know what I was bad at? Reading. Took me years to get comfortable with books. My teacher once told me I'd never catch up. But here's the thing, they were measuring me at the wrong time. Flowers don't all bloom on the same day." Ava's breathing slowly steadied. "What if I never bloom?" she whispered. Mr. Raymond smiled gently. "You already are. You just don't see it yet." He tapped her math paper lightly. This is one moment. One chapter. Not your whole story." Ava looked down at the red mark again, but this time it didn't seem quite as loud. "Do you really think I'm not broken?" she asked. He didn't hesitate. "I know you're not." What neither of them realized was that someone else had been standing quietly near the administrative office doorway, watching. Elena Thompson, impeccably dressed in a tailored charcoal suit, had arrived early to pick up her daughter after a board meeting nearby. As the CEO of one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the state, she was used to commanding rooms filled with executives. But at this moment, she wasn't a CEO. She was a mother, frozen in place, listening. She had heard every word. She had seen her daughter cry before, but never like this, never with that quiet sense of defeat. And she had never heard someone speak to her child with such gentle conviction. Elena felt something twist in her chest. She had spent years building a company from nothing, teaching her employees about resilience and innovation. Yet she wondered, had she unknowingly let her daughter believe that perfection was the price of love? Mr. Raymond slowly stood and offered Ava his hand. "Tell you what," he said warmly. "Tomorrow's another shot. And even if you get another 62, that still won't define you. Deal?" Ava hesitated, then placed her small hand in his. "Deal." As she stood, Elena stepped forward from the shadows. Mr. Raymond quickly straightened, slightly embarrassed. "Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. I didn't mean to interfere. I just saw her sitting here and," Elena shook her head, emotion glistening in her eyes. "No," she said softly. "Thank you." Ava looked between them, confused. "Mom." Elena knelt down, mirroring the janitor's earlier gesture. She gently cupped her daughter's face. "You are not broken," she repeated, her voice trembling. Ava's eyes widened. "You heard." Elena nodded. "And I needed to." She looked up at Mr. Raymond. "You reminded my daughter of something I should have told her more often." Mr. Raymond smiled humbly. "Sometimes kids just need someone to say it out loud." Elena stood and extended her hand. "I'm Elena Thompson." He wiped his palm discreetly on his coveralls before shaking it. "Raymond Carter, ma'am." She held his hand a second longer than expected. "Mr. Carter, would you consider speaking at our company's mentorship program next month?" He blinked in surprise. "Me?" "Yes," she said firmly. "Because today, you led better than most executives I know." Ava looked up at him with a small, hopeful smile. For the first time that day, she didn't feel small. She felt seen. As they walked down the hallway together, the golden sunlight no longer looked like a spotlight of judgment. It looked warm. Forgiving. Promising. And maybe, just maybe, this wasn't a story about a janitor and a CEO. Maybe it was a story about how the right words, spoken at the right time, can change a life. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that no one is defined by one mistake, make sure you subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories that inspire, uplift, and remind us all of the strength we carry inside. Because sometimes, the smallest whispers create the biggest transformations.